Well, we've been doing this little segment at the top of the show for the last couple of weeks called Rip from the Headlines.
Rip from the headlines.
Okay. Very dramatic. And there's always a lot of interesting news that comes up that kind of comes up on the spot of the day. And this one actually came up earlier in the week, but it's really kind of been in the public consciousness for a while. And I wanted to kind of talk to you about it kind of off the cuff a little bit, Dirk, because there was a piece from NPR this week on, I think it was on the 30th, and it was about a company called MidCon Nail.
Yep.
And they're an Indiana-based, I think, company.
Okay.
And they're a nail manufacturer. They're, I think, the biggest nail manufacturer in the country, one of the biggest in the world. And they rely on Mexican steel as their raw material for their product.
Yep.
Well, many of the people in MidCon Nail voted for Trump, were big Trump supporters, as many people were in the middle of the country, especially those in manufacturing. The promises were that this was going to improve the lot of a lot of these workers, these companies. Well, in the spirit of unintended consequences, what happened? These tariffs went through now, and now the price of their raw materials has gone up considerably. And they, like many companies, have a choice when that happens. When your raw materials go up for whatever reason, and tariffs are one reason, there are many reasons why raw materials can go up. What choice do you have? You can either suck it up, just live with it, or what most companies do is you pass that along to your customers. Now, if you pass it along to your customers, you're going to risk losing business because others may not have to. And then you're going to risk what happened in MidCon, a lot of layoffs, people not having as much work as they want, shifts being kind of shuttered. The company itself may not make it. And they interviewed in the NPR piece, really interesting, they interviewed a lot of these people who had voted for Trump in 2016. And several of them said, yeah, I'm still with him. I understand what he's trying to do, and I'm still a supporter.
Don't like what's happening, but I'm still going to support him.
But I get it. He's a bigger picture at play here. But others were like, no, this isn't cool. We're not happy with this. We're not going to support Trump probably in 2020 unless things change or their minds are still open. But it really kind of struck me that this idea that what do you do? There's these unintended consequences, these political winds that blow, and things happen like tariffs that affect companies. And we've seen it actually in our business too. There's a company
just recently.
I don't want to name the company, but there's a company that we got an email from. I'm sure many of their customers and people that they work with got this email too.
In the metrology
space. They are also seeing their raw materials for the products that they make go up considerably.
Some of their products, a certain line of products, right.
They're going to pass that along to their customers. So I guess the bigger question is in this newsy item, this piece about tariffs is, what is the proper course of action for a company that's in this circumstance? How do you survive, have your company be intact if your cost of your raw materials go up to that extent?
Well, and what we're seeing is both. Now, obviously, in the company you were talking about, the metrology company. So it's interesting that we're seeing actually these tariffs have an effect within our space. What this company's doing is kind of a mix and match. They're absorbing, according to their press release that they sent out, they're absorbing some of the cost themselves, and they're passing along some of the cost. So they're kind of splitting the difference more or less. It doesn't work out quite that way, but the idea is they're trying to split the difference. They'll suck up some of it, and they'll pass some of it along. Others not so much. Home Depot, for instance, from what I understand, washing machines, there's a 20% tariff on washing machines. Home Depot, last I read, is passing that full 20% onto the customer. Now, if you think it depends on the cost of a washing machine, but figure if it's a $500 washing machine, that's $100. So now it's a $600 washing machine. That's and so obviously Home Depot doesn't want to hit into their margin, so they're keeping their margins the same, and they're just simply passing that cost along. Which, in one sense, kind of makes sense. They're saying, okay, we're not going to affect our margins, we're not going to cut them, we're not going to increase them, we're just going to pass along the exact cost of this tariff to the customer and let the customer eat the entire cost. But other than that, for us, it's status quo. I think that's kind of a gutsy move, but
there's bigger picture items at any one company, any one industry, any group of consumers. I mean, because within the framework of that, there's relativity, right? I mean, so in other words, a bigger organization maybe will suffer from the tariffs. In the short term, they'll say, okay, well, our margins are going to get eaten into. Maybe we have to pass those costs along. Maybe we don't. Whatever we're going to do, it's going to cost us in some way. But maybe because we're large and we're going to struggle with this, but maybe some smaller competitors of ours are going to go out of business because of this. And maybe they're saying, well, strategically, maybe this benefits us in the long term, having these tariffs in place. It's kind of not that different from the political ecosystem that what the federal government is trying to do now in terms of China, saying, listen, we can outlast you. Our economy's bigger. You're going to suffer more than we will. Relatively, we're going to be in better shape, even though maybe everybody's going to suffer in the short term, economically, for this. It's complicated. I mean, these are not easy things to figure out how these things play out in the framework of macroeconomics. So that's really what we're talking about here is macroeconomics within nations. But it was interesting that we saw this with the story at NPR, and then we saw this thing in our own industry.
Well, and actually, we'd be interested in what's happening with you guys out there. Yeah. If you feel that your company is being impacted by tariffs, either through cost of materials, buying materials, or in direct sales of your own products, let us know. I mean, we'd be curious what's actually going on within our industry with you guys out there. So send us an email to qdl@qualitydigest.com.
That's right.